The jungle air, thick and heavy, suddenly rips apart. A dark, pineapple-shaped object tumbles end over end through the green haze. It lands with a soft thud in the red Vietnamese earth, a few feet from a worn combat boot. A plume of dirt and smoke erupts with a deafening crack. Hot metal shrapnel tears through fatigues, through muscle, through a man. The world becomes a ringing, blurry nightmare of pain and confusion. Through the haze, we see a face, etched with lines of experience and the sudden shock of impact. This is Sergeant First Class Charles Morris, a veteran leader in the unforgiving landscape of Vietnam. The date is June 29, 1967. The place is a hostile patch of jungle near Chi Lang. Around him are the young men of Company A, 2nd Battalion, 503rd Infantry. Moments ago, they were moving cautiously, their M16s held at the ready, sweat stinging their eyes, senses on high alert. Now, that quiet tension has shattered into the brutal reality of a full-scale ambush. The jungle canopy, once a shield from the oppressive sun, is now a veil for an unseen enemy. Sunlight filters through the dense leaves in shifting patterns, illuminating dust motes and the acrid smoke of gunpowder. A young soldier, barely a man, presses himself flat against the cracked earth, his knuckles white as he grips his rifle. Another frantically tries to clear a jam, his hands slick with sweat and shaking. The air fills with the chaotic symphony of war, the sharp crack of AK-47s from a tree-lean, the deeper, rhythmic thud of an American M60 machine gun answering back. Sergeant Morris pushes himself up on one elbow, his teeth gritted against a searing pain in his side. A dark stain is already spreading across his uniform. His helmet sits slightly askew, the paint scratched and worn from countless patrols. He ignores the blood, the ringing in his ears. His eyes, clear and focused, scan the unfolding chaos. He sees fear in the faces of his men. He sees them being pinned down, disorganized by the sudden, violent assault. He knows what he has to do. With a grunt of pure will, Morris gets to his feet. He stumbles but catches himself, a hand pressed against his wound. He raises his rifle, the steel hot from the Vietnamese sun. He spots the first enemy position, a concealed bunker of bamboo and earth, spitting flashes of fire. He doesn't shout orders that will be lost in the din. He leads. He moves. His boots sink into the soft mud as he advances, firing controlled bursts into the dark opening of the bunker. The world narrows to the space between his rifle sight and the enemy. Splinters fly from the bamboo fortification as his rounds find their mark. The return fire stops. One position is silent. He reloads, his movements practiced and efficient, a stark contrast to the panic around him. His hands don't tremble. His breath comes in ragged, painful gasps, but his purpose is a steel rod in his spine. He moves again, a low, crouching run from the cover of one massive tree to the next. The bark shreds beside his head as enemy rounds track his movement. He doesn't flinch. He sees a second enemy emplacement, dug in at the base of a banyan tree, its roots like gnarled fingers gripping the earth. Morris drops to one knee, the muddy ground soaking through his trousers. He takes careful aim, his cheek welded to the stock of his rifle. He fires, and fires again. The foliage around the enemy position jerks and tears. A helmet flies backward. The second source of enemy fire is silenced. He has created a pocket of breathing room for his beleaguered company. Men who were pinned down a moment ago now start to regroup, inspired by the sight of their sergeant, wounded but relentlessly on the attack. A cry of pain cuts through the noise of the battle. A young medic, his white armband a stark target, is hit as he tries to reach a downed soldier. The wounded man lies exposed in a small clearing, desperately trying to crawl to safety. The enemy, sensing an opportunity, concentrates their fire on that spot. The air is thick with snapping bullets. Without hesitation, Charles Morris changes his objective. He is no longer just a hunter, he is a shield. He sprints toward the fallen man, a deliberate and suicidal dash across open ground. He throws himself down beside the wounded soldier, his own body deliberately positioned between the man and the hail of gunfire. Dirt kicks up all around him, bullets thudding into the earth inches from his back. He feels the impact of a round striking the heavy canvas of his rucksack. He stays there, a human barricade, a wall of flesh and bone and pure resolve. He gives the other soldiers the precious seconds they need. He yells encouragement to the wounded man, his voice a low growl of command and reassurance. Another soldier, emboldened, crawls forward, dragging a field dressing from his pouch. Together, under the shield of their sergeant, they pull the wounded man to safety. But the battle rages on. Morris knows that suppressing the enemy is not enough. They must be eliminated. He rises once more, a ghost of a man running on sheer adrenaline and duty. The pain from his initial wound is a roaring fire, but he pushes it down. He systematically moves from one position to the next, a one-man assault force. He throws a grenade, and a third enemy bunker disappears in a flash of smoke and debris. He expends another magazine, silencing a fourth. The tide of the firefight is turning. The volume of enemy fire lessens. The initial shock of the ambush is replaced by the determined counterattack led by a single, wounded sergeant. The men of Company A find their courage in his example. They press forward, gaining ground, pushing the enemy back into the jungle's depths. But the greatest threat remains. From a heavily fortified position, a machine gun commands the battlefield. Its heavy, deep-throated roar is constant. Tracers of red light slice through the smoky air, forcing everyone to keep their heads down. It is the linchpin of the enemy's defense, and as long as it fires, the Americans cannot advance. It is killing his men. Sergeant Morris sees it. He sees the terrified looks on the faces of his soldiers as they cower from its deadly arc of fire. He looks at his rifle, then at the machine gun nest. He knows what comes next. The calculation is simple, brutal, and final. He begins to run, not for cover, but straight toward the source of the danger. He charges directly at the enemy machine gun. It is an act beyond courage, beyond reason. It is the ultimate sacrifice. The gunner, shocked to see a lone figure charging his position, swings the heavy barrel around. The world slows to a crawl. We see the muzzle of the machine gun flash, a bright, angry pulse of light. We see the impacts on the ground around Morris's feet, kicking up spurts of mud. We see the grim determination set in his jaw, his eyes fixed on his target. He continues to run, to close the distance. Then his body is thrown backward, as if struck by an invisible hammer. The forward momentum ceases. He falls to the earth, his rifle clattering beside him. For a moment, there is a terrible, profound silence in the jungle, broken only by the fading echo of the final shots. The enemy machine gun is quiet. In his final desperate charge, Sergeant Morris had drawn its full attention, allowing his men the opportunity to flank and destroy it. The battle is effectively over. The remaining ambushers melt back into the jungle from which they came. The smoke begins to clear. The sounds of battle are replaced by the groans of the wounded and the urgent calls for medics. Soldiers rise from their cover, their faces a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and awe. They look across the churned-up earth to the spot where their sergeant lies. They see the silenced enemy positions he single-handedly destroyed. They see the men he shielded with his own body, now being tended to by medics. They understand what he has done. Sergeant First Class Charles Morris lies still. He continued fighting after being grievously wounded. He destroyed multiple enemy positions. He shielded his comrades from harm. He charged and silenced the one weapon that held them all at bay. He saved his company at the cost of his own life. His actions on that sweltering June day would not be forgotten. He would be recognized posthumously for his incredible valor, a testament to a leader who gave everything for the men under his command. Tell me your favorite war story I should talk about next. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.